Welcome to episode number 14 of Life Without Cravings. So in this episode, I want to talk a bit about why you might feel deprived if you're on a very low carb diet or a carnivore diet. And I want to give you 3 tips for how to get out of it. So you don't have to be feeling deprived while you're on these diets. But if you have ever felt deprived being on any diet, congratulations, you have a human brain, and that's what human brains do. They will make us feel deprived when we are taking away options for what we should be eating. Also, if that's you, everything that I will talk about today will apply to you. So just listen up, listen to the 3 tips that I'm going to give you, because they will really help you get out of that mentality. You might have, as most people do, come to the conclusion that this is a very restrictive diet and you're just going to feel deprived while you're on it. And let's be honest, no matter what your diet is like, if there are any restrictions that you have put on it, or maybe even food availability, you're probably going to feel the same thing. So it isn't necessarily that it's a low carb diet or a zero carb diet. It's just that there is some sort of limitation from what you think that there should be. And you have accepted that as the truth, that you're just going to feel deprived when there are restrictions around your diet. And it's because you can't eat all the foods that you want while being on the diet. Because most of us will start thinking even more about those foods that we can't have anymore when we put a restriction on our diet. But that is not actually the reason for why you're feeling deprived. So let me just be clear here. Being on a diet that excludes a lot of food is not the reason for why you're feeling deprived. Okay, I hope you heard me there. It's not the reason. The diet is not the reason for why you're feeling deprived. The deprivation is coming from sneaky thoughts that you might not even have noticed. And those thoughts might be something like, I can't have that, I shouldn't have that, I'm not allowed to have that, or everyone else can have it but me. All of those thoughts are going to create a feeling of deprivation. So these thoughts might seem like they're true, like it's just facts, it's just how the world is, and this is what is happening. But it's actually not. It's just something that you have created in your mind. It's thoughts. It's as simple as that. Those are thoughts that you are having, and they are not the ultimate truth. And these thoughts are actually what is causing you to feel deprived. It has absolutely nothing to do with your diet. So when you're trying to stick with your diet, the diet that you have chosen, if you notice that you are feeling deprived, or maybe you feel resentful when you're thinking about all the foods that you can't have anymore, or that you shouldn't be eating, that are not part of your food plan, just notice what those thoughts are. Because those are going to be the thoughts that will create that feeling of deprivation for you. So if you think, for example, I can't have that. Let's say that is the thought that you're having. That thought will for sure make sure that you feel deprived. And it will also make you feel very powerless, as if your diet is not within your control, as if there's someone else deciding that this is how you're going to feel because you're eating this way. So a better thought to have in this moment would be that I'm choosing not to have that today. Because there is choice in there, which means that you have the power over your diet and what you're eating. And you're choosing to do that today. That doesn't mean that you're going to choose to do it tomorrow. There is no pressure for you to keep doing it ongoingly. This allows a lot more freedom and like a relaxation around your diet as a whole. Because if you can think that you have chosen to do this today, it will come from a place of power and choice. And I think most people would like to be there. And that will not leading to you feeling deprived. It will lead to you feeling like a stronger person, like you're doing the right thing, like you are living the life that you want to live and eating on your own terms, like the terms that you set, not something that the magazine or some YouTube guru has been telling you. It's all about what you want to do. And today you have chosen not to eat that for a reason. Okay? It is never a case of you not being allowed to eat the carbs. It's always a choice that you make, and you have chosen to not have carbs right now for a specific reason. So it's not that you can't ever have carbs again. That's not what we're talking about. We don't make commitments for life, because that will make you feel restricted, almost guaranteed, unless you are superhuman and you're not actually addicted to carbs. Then that might not be a problem. So this is why I'm teaching all my clients how to safely consume carbs if that is what they want to do, without feeling afraid of doing that. So I don't want them to be scared of ending up binging for weeks or months if they are having some carbs. That is just a skill that everyone that I'm working with will have as a result of working with me. And not everyone will choose to use that skill. But if you have that skill, you will just know within yourself that I know how to handle this, and I don't have to be afraid of doing this down the line. That is what it's about. What you choose to eat has nothing to do with that. So it's never that you can't have it. You just decided not to have it. And you're going to be okay with it. So depending on why you're trying to stick with a low-carb diet, sometimes we're doing fine in the beginning, but as we go along, these feelings of deprivation might just kind of build over time. And all of a sudden, because you haven't paid attention to what's happened, you were just feeling like you feel really deprived all of a sudden. It might take you 2-3 weeks to get there. And you will feel as if you missed out on something. And this can create a very stressful environment for your body as well as your mind, which in turn will raise your cortisol. And when you have increased cortisol levels, your hunger will increase, and your ability to release fat from your fat storage is going to be minimized. So if you're doing this to lose weight, that is going to stall. And if you're doing this because you want to lose weight, usually you try to not overeat, but now all of a sudden you're really hungry as well. And it all comes from the stress of you feeling like you're deprived because you have these thoughts. So it's like a vicious circle that is getting really hard to get out of. So what happens then is that usually you will most likely end up using willpower to try and get out of it and stay on track to not have those carbs. And then when you had all those shitty deprivation thoughts about how you can't have all of this that you really, really want, the pressure is just building up and getting more and more, like it's building up, and it feels like you're gonna explode. At least that's how I felt. It's like I can't take another day of this. So when I released that pressure, what happened is that I kind of go out. I'm out of control. It's just like I let all inhibitions go, and I'm gonna give in to all the cravings that I had, and I'm gonna get all the foods, and that is what is gonna cause that binge. So rather than just allowing myself to have a little bit here and a little bit there and learn how to control that, I would just be like all or nothing. And I'm going for nothing as long as I can using willpower, then I explode, and then I'm going to have to go for all of it because that's the other end of the spectrum. So I wasn't really being in the middle at all because I wasn't able to be there, but there is a way of doing that. And I've been doing that for a long period of time. Now, it's actually quite recent that I've decided that I'm just not going to touch sugar because I found that easy to deal with now. But my brain wasn't ready to go there straight away. So if you're feeling deprived and you're feeling as if this whole thing is going to like just blow up at some point in the near future, you may want to focus on finding a way to get out of this cycle. So here are the 3 steps that I mentioned earlier that you can try. So the first thing you need to do is just recognize that when you have gone off track and see that this is what is happening, and then be willing to take a moment to just have a look at what happened. Because when we can analyze what happened, that's when we can see what we need to correct. So think about the vicious cycle of having thoughts that make you want to, or that makes you feel deprived, and then that deprivation will make you feel like I have to give in to those cravings eventually. When did you first start having those thoughts? Like, what scenario was there? What was it in a special environment? Was there someone eating something that you couldn't have, that you couldn't shake that feeling that you really wanted it. What happened? Because usually there's a starting point, and most of the time there will be something that kind of triggers that a bit. Because I bet you that it wasn't there from the beginning. Those thoughts probably appeared somewhere along the way. So we want to know why, what happened, and then from there we can figure out a way of dealing with that. So what triggers and motivations did you have? Why would you want to do that? Why would you want to start building that pressure and feeling like I should be able to eat like everyone else? What were your thoughts? Was that a thought that you had, or was it something different? And when you can identify what went wrong and from there learn from those mistakes, you will be able to stop this cycle. So that's the first thing that you want to do. Second thing is that you want to recognize when you are using willpower, because it will feel like white knuckling it. Like if you feel like I'm just going to do this, I don't care if I have cravings, I'm still going to do it. And you're running on determination rather than a genuine want to not eat those carbs, that's when you're using willpower. So just see if you can identify when this is happening. It's going to be feeling like, when you're using willpower, it's going to feel like sort of a struggle and tension in your body probably. And when you're feeling as if you have to just like get through it rather than it being something that you want to do for your health, for your life, something that you're motivated to do, that's when you're in the danger zone, and that's when you need to watch out for what could happen next. And then you just need to try and figure out, like, what thoughts are you having about your diet? What are those unhelpful thoughts that create this deprived feeling? Because there will be a lot of thoughts there, and I bet you that most of them are going to be very unhelpful. And the last thing, just be realistic and supportive of yourself. Like if you're doing carnivore for the first time and you decided like, I'm going to go all in, I'm going to go on the lion diet and I'm just going to eat beef and salt for the next 6 months, and you feel deprived, well, that is a big jump to take. Some people will be able to do it, but if you are addicted to carbs, this is going to be really hard for you. So just ask yourself, like, why did you make this decision? Not everyone needs to be that strict to get the results that they want. Maybe you are one of those that need to be that strict, and then you have a good reason. But for the majority of people, they don't need to do that. So perhaps you just want to open up a little bit and make this transition a bit easy for yourself, and then with time, move on to the lion diet. So if you are avoiding all spices, for example, because someone told you that this is how you do carnivore, you're not allowed to have spices, you're not allowed to have this, and you're not allowed to have that, perhaps you want to rethink that decision, because this is just what someone has been telling you, and you think that that's how you have to do it. But that's not necessarily what you need to do, because you can still get the results that you want, opening it up a little bit. Obviously, depending on what your goal is. Some people that are really sick, they literally can't have anything else because their inflammation and their disease will flare up if they do that. But that might not be the case for you. So just think about, like, what sort of diet would you have to go on to have the best chance of success? It might not be the most restrictive diet that you can think of right now. When you learn the skills, you will be able to move on to there. If you choose to. Maybe you don't have to. Or maybe you just want to because it's fun to see, is there going to be a difference? I like doing sort of extreme things sometimes just because it's interesting to see if it's going to help. So, things are falling down here. So, depending on why you're doing carnivore, like a few spices that can just help you to feel like this is so much tastier might help. And if that is going to make it easy for you and you're still feeling great, why wouldn't you? Why not? Explore that. Like, why not? Maybe you have a really good reason for why not, but if you don't, then maybe you want to try it. So rather than just trying to cut out all of the foods except for one meat source and salt, and then ultimately fail because this isn't really what you want to do and you do feel like this is super restrictive, it's infinitely better to just allow yourself to eat a variety of meats and fish and game and maybe dairy even. depending on if you do well with that or not. And you don't even have to have the spices. Like maybe you can just eat meat and salt, but a variety of meats. Maybe that's where you want to go. And that will just allow you to relax about your diet a little bit, which will take care of the cortisol issue and the hunger issue, and then you will start feeling better about it. So if this helps you to not feel deprived, it's completely worth it while you are practicing the skills that you need to be able to get your head around what it feels like to eat this way. Because we have programmed our brains to think that we need to have a lot of variety and different tastes, and your brain is going to crave that dopamine hit that it's going to get from some foods and very intense tasting foods. But this is just how we have programmed ourselves. This is not nature's way of doing it. And you're not in a hurry. Like if this is how you want to eat for the rest of your life, like go slow, make the transition, set yourself up for success, and make sure that you're moving forward. When we're trying to do all at once, the risk of you actually falling off is much, much higher. So when you implement the changes very slowly, you will probably be more likely to be able to stick with this way of eating more permanently. Okay, so just a quick recap if that was confusing at all. So number 1, you don't have to do all 3, by the way. You can pick or choose 1 or 2 or all 3 if you like. But number 1, be willing to just have a look at what went wrong and learn from it. Because often when we do something wrong, we just like, oh well, I'm back on track, it doesn't matter. But it does matter because you want to learn from it. Every time you fall off, that is a learning experience and an opportunity for you to learn something about how you work and what motivates you to do certain things. So don't throw that away. It's very important information. And number 2, just recognize that sometimes you're using willpower and learn what that feels like so that you can change this. Because you will not want to use willpower. You want to just allow the cravings to be there, and you want to allow those emotions to be there without fighting them. It's when we're trying to use willpower to change things that we screw things up usually. And then be realistic and supportive of yourself. Like set yourself up for success. Don't do things that you think, well, we'll see how long I can do this for. If you think that maybe I can do this for a week, isn't it better to do something that you think that you will be able to do for a month? Because the difference that you're gonna make for your body and for your mind is gonna be a lot bigger in a month's time rather than a week. Because a week is way too short. But if you do it near perfect but not quite perfect for a month, you're still gonna have a lot of results. And that's what we're looking for. And when you get the results, you will get more motivated. And it will be so much easier for you to just stick with it. So that was all I had for you today. So just take this, practice it, and be awesome. Like, you can be awesome. We can all be awesome. And we can just do whatever it is that we want to do. So I will see you next week. Bye.